I thought, what if somebody from Fear the Walking Dead sends that balloon? Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today, let's talk The Walking Dead, Season 6, Episode 10, Afterthoughts. Alright, if you're new here, when the episode airs, I upload First Impressions review. After a few days go by, I listen to your feedback in the comments of that video, and then I rewatch the episode, and I like to hit a couple points in this Afterthoughts, pretty much go in depth. Now sometimes I like to switch it up, make it a little different. Sometimes I just like to go in depth with certain things. Sometimes I like to go from the beginning of the episode to the end, and we're going to kind of do that here. I wrote a whole list here. We're going to knock out some of the points, and if we don't talk about it here, we probably talked about it in the first video, the first impression review. So let's jump right into this. The morning scene, I think that's an A+. I love that. Love how he was putting a notch in his belt, kind of giving us that not so subtle in your face look at what being low on food and rations will do. You know, Rick is already losing weight. He wasn't heavy to begin with, and he's still losing weight because they are low on food, which gets me excited. Comic book fans know what I mean. I love the low high five he gives with Michonne when he's walking out, and then it's a very busy scene because with Carl and the ball and everything that's going on, and this intro scene actually comes full circle to the end about the toothpaste and everything, and it also gives us some exposition about roughly how much time has gone by, because Rick says something about 2 weeks. I know a lot of people are saying 2 months. They said specifically 2 weeks, but I also heard that they confirmed it was 2 months on The Talking Dead. So in my opinion, it's definitely been 2 to 3 weeks-ish. It could even be a couple months. If they confirm that, yeah, absolutely. It makes total sense. So I'm just putting it out there, covering my bases. I didn't hear 2 months, but it's definitely, at least 3 to 2 months. 3 weeks to 2 months. And then we have Denise. She said that Tara was talking about soda in her sleep. Denise called it pop, though. And I'm trying to figure out, did Tara call it pop? Because Tara could have been talking about her dad. If Tara was talking about soda, then okay, she's talking about soda. But if because Denise said that she was from Ohio or something like that, and they call it pop there. It could go either way. I'm just saying that's something they could bring into this story later to kind of get a more connected emotional scene, to bring the characters together more, talking about the pop and the soda. Keep an eye out. I think that's going to rear its head again. Also, they mentioned that Tara's going on a 2-week run with Heath. Now, this is very interesting because they never give exposition that they're not going to use. So they're going on a 2-week run. So prepare yourselves. I know a lot of fans are going, oh man, they're hinting at Abraham and the comic book stuff because of the clip they showed, because Eugene and Abraham are going to go on a perimeter check together. So keep an eye out on that. But Tara and Heath are going on this 2-week supply run. So there's definitely something that's going to pop off with them too. They might get captured, run into the Saviors. Something is going to happen. We see actually what's left of the wall. After Daryl talks to Denise, they pull back and they show a little piece of the wall. And to me, it looks like they're actually expanding that out. Now, I could be totally wrong, but I have a feeling I'm not, because they were talking about including the church. It's subtle, but when it pans out, you can see the progress they're making. And I thought that was actually pretty cool. Now, when they're leaving, I love the comical stuff. Rick's putting on music. However, the music was pretty stupid. Not my type of music. But it does talk about being gay, and they run into Jesus there. I'm just saying. I think something's neat. A lot of people are pointing out that when Rick's putting in the CD, Daryl actually says, "Don't, please don't." Well, in the comic book, Glenn says that at a very important moment when Negan arises, or when Negan is introduced. So a lot of fans are saying, hey, is that a little foreshadowing? I don't know. Could be. You let me know down in that comment box if you think that is some foreshadowing. Now, we see Michonne on the guard post, let's call it. This gets a little awkward for me watching it, because I look at Michonne, she's watching, and we can see Alexandria, and I'm thinking, man, this is a thriving community, right? Like, I know there's not tons of people there, but wouldn't we see some people walking around? I mean, just one maybe. We don't see any. It's like a ghost town. There's nobody around, and I know that's a small nitpick, and most likely it's just easy for continuity. But it makes me nervous because the Hilltop, the new community we're going to see, it has a lot of people there. So if they have a lot of people too, I just don't know if it's gonna seem realistic. Because sometimes Alexandria just doesn't seem realistic because there's never anyone around. So from that we go to the truck that Rick and Daryl found. Now I think this is cool. A lot of people are saying, hey, did Jesus leave that truck there for an offering to the saviors because they split their supplies and da-da-da-da-da? And I would have to say no. When I first seen it, it looked like somebody who had packed up, potentially at a factory or something, because stuff are shrink wrapped. Like if you ever worked for a moving company or if you ever worked in a distribution center, they have pallets of material and they shrink wrap it so it doesn't all fall off. Well, if you look to the left, there's stuff that's shrink wrapped on like a pallet. So I'm thinking that this was somebody's stash, and I don't believe Jesus left it there. If he did, I have a feeling he would have probably just said something from the gate. I don't know. I could be totally wrong. I just think they didn't. And also, you can see it says pasta maker when they lift it up. And I thought that was hilarious because, and I caught that on the second viewing because Mrs. Needlemeyer, she died in like episode 2, where she was always talking about getting a pasta maker to make her own pasta. And I have no excuses for why they left the car there. That whole scene doesn't make sense. They both went in the truck. I mean, you could probably just pull up some lame excuses like, oh, they were saving gas or something. I don't know. Maybe they needed gas from the car. They put it in the truck. I'm not good with mechanics. I don't even know how that car or truck, the box truck, would be sitting there for who knows how long, and it would just start. I don't know. I'm not good with cars, so you let me know. What is cool with Jesus' introduction, and we're speaking strictly from a TV viewer standpoint, not a comic one. We're not comparing it. We got a video coming during the break that will compare the comic versus the show. But until then, strictly about the TV show, I like how we see Jesus putting the keys in his pocket. It's subtle. I noticed it the very first time, and I thought it was really odd. It felt like and again, I didn't know he stole his keys, so when I saw him go like this and then put his hands back up, it felt odd. I was like, what the hell was that? But yeah, it's cool now when you rewatch it because you'll see him put his hand down by his pocket and lift his hand back up. He's actually pocketing the keys. And yes, his name is Paul Rovia, or at least that's what I wrote down, Rovia. Paul Jesus Monroe was in the comic book. I do believe they changed that after I just got done saying that. But anyway, I do believe they did change that because the casual fans would be like, Monroe. I felt like, and will be one of the only comic book things we talk about, I felt like that was unnecessary. They could have kept the name Paul Jesus Monroe. And when he said, hey, my name's Paul Jesus Monroe, I think it would have been nice if Rick was like, are you related or do you know Adina Monroe? And he could just be like, nope, no relation, And it could just be revealed that that's a common name. I don't think the audience is that stupid. And yeah, I'm a little annoyed they changed it. Moving on, we got Enid and Carl, and this is where my mind was blown. Now, I did go outside and get a nice, deep breath of fresh air before I rewatched this, so I had my mind right, and I'm watching this, and Carl and Enid found a balloon with a note in it, and it was too wet to read, and I have not heard anyone talking about this balloon, so I don't know what the theories are out there, but I thought, what if somebody from Fear the Walking Dead sends that balloon? Like when this season's over and we go into Fear the Walking Dead season 2, what if we see, for whatever reason, maybe in the finale, one of them sends a balloon up with a message, or maybe they're on the boat or they get to shore somewhere and they just send a balloon up with a message. Listen, we got young kids. They're not young, but they're younger. I think they would do something like that. They would be sitting there. They could even have a few drinks or be giddy for whatever reason, or maybe think that they're alone in the world and this is it, and send up a little message that they're there. Something like that. I think that is pretty cool. Because if they're in California... Oh, shit. Yeah, they're in California. Scratch that idea. Let's move to Rick and Daryl. So they get their box truck back, and then Jesus is on the roof, so they pump their brakes. That was funny. Somebody did mention that, man, Jesus is like the comic relief, whatever, da-da-da. I did enjoy it, though. I did have fun with it when he got thrown off the roof, and when he started to get back up, he was like, ugh, and then he just turns around and runs. I liked all that. Now, they showed these walkers on ropes, and I was thinking at first, I thought maybe that's a trap that he sets, but then I was like, well, there's no way to test that where the rope is going to break. Like, how would you test that? Because you could set that trap, and the walkers could break free off the ropes. And somebody did leave a message saying, we will be back for them. Again, don't know what this means. That could be the Saviors. The Saviors could be getting the Saviors could be getting walkers like together, because they take them to the factory where the Saviors' headquarters are, where they live, and they actually chain walkers to the outside, and they use walkers to make like a walker wall to protect the whole factory and to keep the walkers out and away. Now, that might prove difficult to do now because they established the quarry, and the quarry was drawing walkers in. So if you have walkers all around the perimeter, like in the comic, you would think that it would draw them in, right? That's interesting. But the Saviors could have left those walkers there, or I think just it's going to be one of those, never answered stories where the producers will come out and say, yeah, you know what, some people had people there, family members, and they left them, they tied them up and whatever, and they were going to come back for them after they went and got supplies, and then they just never came back. They could do a story like that. I'm curious to see if there's something more. I feel like there might be more there to it. Thoughts and opinions, though, definitely. I do like the part where Jesus is like, duck, and he shoots the walker, and Daryl's like, that's my gun, and hits him. It felt a little silly, though, and this is probably the one part I didn't like, even rewatching it. I liked rewatching this episode. I did enjoy this episode a lot, but it was the truck rolling backwards into the lake. When I first watched it, it didn't stick out at me as like a sore thumb, but it was kind of like one of those things like, really? Just don't even have them find all those supplies, because this is just too convenient, right? They're dangerously low on supplies. They find just a whole box truck with supplies, and then all of a sudden it goes into a lake. I don't know. Yeah, it just felt like a plot device to introduce Jesus, I would have preferred if they at least found some supplies. It doesn't even need to be a whole truckload. So the supplies sinking, and then after that, though, we get a knocked out Jesus, and Rick tells Daryl we need to help him, or whatever. What about him? And then he goes, well, he helped you. And Daryl's just like, maybe. I love that line. I think Norman Reedus delivered those lines perfectly. Now, I still always wish for a little bit more of that spark of Daryl Dixon from Season 1, Season 2. Just a little bit in these situations, especially with the RPG. I left this out of the other Afterthoughts video, but it was something I regret not talking about. And I just feel like Season 1, Season 2 Daryl, like the Daryl we all fell in love with in the beginning, would have been like flipping his shit that he got to shoot an RPG. He would have been talking so much shit and just loud and like, that's Daryl Dixon. This whole quiet, like, the silent badass type, I just wish it was the more Season 1, Season 2 Daryl. Next, we got a scene that I had to just stop and laugh for a good 15-20 minutes, because it's where Carl is running through the woods and he's leading Deanna Walker, which I don't know if that was such a surprise to everybody. They showed us her injured leg as she was walking when they did the first reveal, and ever since then it was annoying me that they kept like hiding the reveal when it was clearly Deanna. You know what I'm saying? Like, me and my cousins are watching this and we were all like, oh shit, Deanna, how the hell did she get out here? Which, that's another thing. How the hell did Deanna get out there? I know Spencer said he's seen her, but she just stumbled out. She's been walking all around Alexandria for weeks to a couple months. That's one of those things where it's like, okay, we need the time skip, but we need this. It's like two things that just conflict with each other. And they said, well, you know what? Screw it. We're doing both. And I feel like this is a perfect example of two cool things conflicting with each other, and they do it anyway. But anyway, what made me laugh is Again, I got my mind right, and I'm watching this, and I'm zoning out. I'm loving it. And then when Carl did the running through the trees, I thought, man, they should show how his perception's off, and he should be running and it's like smacking at a tree, or maybe just get caught on a branch or something. I don't know. It's just not that easy running through a thick wooded area like that without bumping into something. And with the one eye, I thought it would just been hilarious for at least him to get his shoulder stuck on a branch and just go as he's running past. All right, but that comedy is probably not meant for The Walking Dead, but I thought it would have been funny. And for some reason, that just made me laugh. Like, a lot. Speaking of Deanna, though, Spencer does mention that she gave him a note. I think we saw what his note said, but we never see what Maggie says. So again, keep an eye out for Tara going on the run. That's something very important to keep an eye out, because that's going to play an important role in this. And then also Maggie's note. That might also become part of the story. They're not just going to walk away with that, I don't feel. So after this, we get Carl and Michonne. I love that scene in general. I just feel like some of the dialogue from the Carl character was a little weak. It felt off. The dialogue had a lot of punch, but it wasn't delivered with a lot of punch. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about he should have been screaming. It just felt off. Now, they show this walker at the gates. It looks familiar, and I cannot put my finger on it. If this is one of those walkers that they do up from other movies, let me know, because this one looks really familiar. Another thing, too, is we constantly see Daryl talking about we shouldn't be getting anybody. He doesn't want to take Jesus. He doesn't want to look for people. He doesn't want to take them in. It seems like he has not told anybody. Now, he lost his crossbow. He lost his bike. So he has to say something, right? So he has to be like, yeah, someone stole him off me. But does he tell them that he was going to, bring them back? And then they robbed him? Thoughts and opinions on that? I'm leaning towards he didn't tell them the whole truth, at a very least, because it doesn't feel like it, Rick would have brought up the people that robbed Daryl, I feel, and Daryl's giving him that look, so Daryl's definitely keeping that in my opinion. Now, when we get to the Rick and the Michonne scene, there's some fans that are still uncomfortable with it. There's some fans that are comfortable with it. Some fans that feel like it was forced and fan service. Some fans that feel like it's been set up. Now, I understand some points to a lot of the arguments, but when I break down that scene, I really like when Michonne comes in and gives him that little nudge. The whole scene is comfortable. From there, we got the smile. You guys know I love Michonne's smile. Well, she gives that smile, this particular one, not just a, she's happy smile, but she has this certain laugh where she scrunches up her face, and it feels genuine in the scene. It was done nice. Even right down to Rick smiling. He smiles like after they were holding hands and before he goes in for the kiss, I believe. It felt like the actor smiled in the scene. You know what I mean? It was like one of those like genuine, authentic smiles. I could be totally wrong, but it fit the character, because I feel like the characters wouldn't be serious about it. There would be some smiling. There would be some more and different emotions in there because of how close they were prior to this. It's not people who just met or went out on a date and maybe it's expected that they would kiss, you know what I'm saying? These are people who were close as friends, and the thought might have popped in their head once or twice, and then this was the moment where both of them realized, we both want this, So when Rick smiles, it feels genuine. At least that's what I thought. And then we get the cliffhanger where Jesus wakes them up out of bed, and neither one of them decide to cover up. Rick goes for his gun, she goes for her katana, and it's awesome. However, Daryl has a lot to explain, because wasn't he guarding him? Rick does say that. Rick does say Daryl was guarding him, so I'm actually very curious how Jesus got out of there and got past Daryl. Did he sneak out a different way? Daryl is probably still sitting there thinking he's watching him. I don't know. But anyway, again, I still think this was a really good episode. It's actually a really enjoyable episode to rewatch. The characters coming together, the back and forth between the characters. Now, Spencer's storyline, not so much. I get it, I understand it, but I'm at odds a little bit with why it's there. They could be building the character of Spencer up somewhat, and if that's the case, sure, go ahead, shine some light on some of the fresher characters. So in closing, this episode was as enjoyable the second time as it was the first. I really like the dynamic between the characters and the direction of the story overall, and I'm really interested to meet this new community that Jesus is going to escort our characters to. So give me your thoughts and opinions about this episode down in that comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.